All right, get ready to dive deep because today we're tackling personality and neuropsychology tests.
Ooh, those are fun.
They are. They're supposed to help us understand, like how we think and how we act.
Basically trying to figure out, like, what makes you you, right?
Exactly. And the crazy thing is they're used everywhere.
Oh, yeah, not just like therapy offices.
No way. Like businesses use them to hire people,
And even the military uses them.
to pick the best candidates.
Exactly. And get this, even dating apps are using them now.
No way. To like match people up.
Yeah, it's all about trying to understand people better, you know?
Makes sense. So our guidebook for this journey is Sulking.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah, specifically chapter 10.
Oh, that's the one all about testing, right?
Yeah, so get ready because we're going to figure out like how those ink blot tests work and all those weird questions you see sometimes.
Like, do you prefer mountains or the beach? What does that even tell you?
Right, we're going to unpack all of that.
It's going to be a wild ride. So what's fascinating is that there are like a ton of different approaches to these tests.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like on the one hand, you have what are called objective tests.
Okay, what are those like?
Well, they have straightforward questions,
Mhm.
easy to score, like, do you enjoy large gatherings?
Yeah, and then it's like agree or disagree.
Exactly. Super simple, but sometimes it feels a little surface level, don't you think?
Yeah, like it's just a survey, not really getting to the heart of who I am.
Exactly. So that's where these other tests come in.
Okay, what are they called?
They're called projective tests, and they're way more interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
So they use these ambiguous things like ink blots or abstract images.
Okay.
And the idea is that you, the person taking the test, you project your thoughts and feelings onto them.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, so it's thought to like reveal deeper stuff, unconscious things.
So stuff you might not even know about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's like those optical illusions,
Yeah.
where some people see one thing and others see something totally different.
Oh, yeah, like the rabbit duck one.
Exactly. Same image, but totally different perceptions.
Okay, so that makes sense, but how do you even start to make a test like that?
Right. Well, there are a few different ways.
Okay, like what?
One way is to use these psychological theories.
Okay.
Like, let's say you're trying to make a test to measure how much of a risk taker someone is.
Okay, so you'd ask them if they like to skydive.
Well, yeah, you could ask about stuff like that.
Or like if they'd rather climb a mountain or like play a board game.
Exactly. But it's not that simple. You have to be really careful
Because?
because you have to make sure that the questions you're asking are actually measuring what you want to measure.
That makes sense, so it's not just about asking random questions.
Now, it's got to be scientific. They do all this research and testing to make sure the questions actually work.
So it's like a whole process.
Oh, yeah, it's not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Got it.
Another way they do it is by using what's called a criterion group.
What's that?
So they take a group of people who already have the trait you're interested in,
Okay.
and they compare their answers to a group of people who don't.
Oh, I see.
A great example is this test called the MMPI.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, super widely used. And what they did was they tested their questions on college students,
Okay.
and then they compared those answers to answers from people who had been diagnosed with various mental illnesses.
Interesting. So they were looking for the questions that really made a difference.
Exactly. Like, which questions could tell them who was struggling and who wasn't.
Wow, that's actually really smart.
Yeah, and based on that, they were able to create these 10 different scales for the MMPI.
10 scales.
Yeah, covering everything from depression to paranoia to even get this masculinity and femininity.
Wow, that's a lot. It seems like they really wanted to get a whole picture of someone.
Exactly. But then the question is, how do you make sense of all that data?
Right. It must be overwhelming.
Yeah, so that's where this thing called factor analysis comes in.
Okay, what's that?
It's basically a way to find hidden connections in all the data.
So like finding patterns?
Exactly. Think of it like sorting a huge pile of puzzle pieces. It helps you find the ones that fit together.
Okay, that makes sense. So have there been any like big discoveries from this kind of analysis?
Oh, tons. One of the biggest was the discovery of the Big Five personality traits.
Big five.
Yeah, so basically they found that there are 5 core traits that can explain a lot of human personality.
No way. Just 5.
Yeah, they're openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Wow, it's crazy to think that all of us can be boiled down to those 5 things.
I know, right? Like, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's like finding the basic building blocks of who we are.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, like, if these tests can categorize us, do they also limit us?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, like, do they put us in a box?
That's something to think about for sure.
That's a really good point. It's like, are we more than just our scores?
Right. And that's something researchers are always thinking about. Like, how much do these tests really tell us?
Yeah, I mean, they're just tools, right?
Exactly. They can't tell us everything about a person.
They shouldn't be the only thing we use to judge someone.
No way.
Well,
Like, take the 16PF, for example.
oh, yeah, that's the one with like 16 different personality factors, right?
Exactly. And a lot of times it's used for things like career counseling.
Oh, interesting. So not just for like spotting problems.
No, it's more about helping people figure out what they're good at.
So instead of saying, you're too shy for this job, it's like, hey, you're great at analyzing stuff. Maybe check out a research role.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that each personality has its own strengths.
I like that. It's like finding the right fit for someone.
Yeah, exactly. It's not one size fits all.
This actually reminds me of something Salkind talks about, the Edwards personal preference schedule.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic one.
It's based on this guy, Henry Murray, who had this theory about psychological needs.
Oh, yeah, he said that these needs kind of drive our behavior.
Exactly. Like, what are we motivated by? So what kind of needs are we talking about here?
Well, there are 15 different scales on this test.
15. Okay, so like what?
Well, things like achievement, deference, order, exhibition, autonomy, affiliation.
Okay, a lot of big words.
I know, right? But they're all about different motivations.
So, like, someone who scores high on achievement might be super ambitious.
Exactly. Always striving to be the best.
While someone who scores high on affiliation might be all about relationships.
Yeah, they value those close connections with others.
So it's like having a key to understanding why people do the things they do.
It's pretty cool when you think about it.
Totally. And speaking of understanding motivations, have you heard about how dating sites are using personality tests now?
Oh, yeah, that's a thing now.
It's so crazy. Like, they're using algorithms to match people based on personality.
Yeah, like eHarmony. They claim to use this stuff to find compatible partners.
It's like, forget about looks. Let's see if your personalities click.
Right. It's like a science experiment for love.
But does it actually work? Like, can a test really predict if you'll last with someone?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I guess only time will tell.
True. But it's definitely interesting to see how these tests are being used in new ways.
Yeah, so they're popping up everywhere. But let's switch gears back to neuropsychological testing for a bit.
Okay, back to the brain stuff.
Yeah, so these tests are really about those cognitive skills, right?
Exactly. Things like memory, language, problem solving.
The stuff we need to function every day.
Yeah, and they're often used to see if there's been any brain damage or neurological issues.
And we talked about how neuropsychologists use a whole bunch of different tests, right?
Yeah, it's not just one test. It's like a whole battery of them.
Like a full-on assessment.
Exactly. So they might use intelligence tests like the waves.
Which measures your IQ.
Yeah, your overall cognitive ability.
And then they might use memory tests like the California Verbal Learning Test.
Which sees how well you can remember things.
Right. Like, can you still remember those words after a distraction?
Exactly. And then there are language tests, like the Boston Naming Test, to see if you can name things.
It sounds like a lot to juggle.
It is. It's like piecing together a puzzle using all these clues to figure out what's happening in the brain.
And those clues can help with so much.
Oh, yeah. They can help diagnose conditions, recommend treatments, even track progress.
It's amazing how much they can tell us.
It really is. Now, you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to circle back to, forensic assessment.
Oh, yeah. That one sounded intense.
It definitely has its own set of challenges. It's basically using these tests in legal situations.
So, like, in court.
Exactly. Like figuring out if someone is competent to stand trial.
Oh, wow. Or, like, if someone's brain injury is legitimate after an accident.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of things forensic experts deal with.
So it's like psychology meets the legal system.
Exactly. They might even have to testify in court.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
It is. The stakes are really high in these cases.
Yeah, because you're talking about potentially impacting someone's freedom or their ability to get compensation for their injuries.
It's a huge responsibility.
Definitely makes you realize how important it is to use these tests ethically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be careful and understand their limitations.
It's a good reminder that these tests are just tools. They don't tell the whole story.
They're just one piece of the puzzle.
You have to consider the whole person, their history, their circumstances, everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about being responsible and using these tests the right way. It is a huge responsibility. And yeah, it makes you think about like all the other ways these tests could be used or even misused.
That's such a good point. It's like we've been talking about these powerful tools that can look into our personalities and our brains, but like is there potential for things to go wrong?
Oh, for sure. Like with any powerful tool, you have to be super careful about how you use it.
Right, like what are some of the ethical things to think about here?
One of the biggest ones is privacy.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because these tests are revealing really personal information, things people might not even tell their best friends.
Right. So then the question is, what happens to that information?
Exactly. Like, if I'm applying for a job and they make me take a personality test, what if I don't want to do it?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Or what if they reject me based on my answers?
Those are all valid concerns, and that's why informed consent is so important.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Basically, people need to understand what the test is actually measuring, how the results will be used, and what their rights are.
So they have a choice.
They should always have the option to say no if they're not comfortable.
That makes sense. It's like when a doctor asks for your medical history.
Exactly. You have the right to know why they need that information and how they're going to use it.
You wouldn't want your deepest, darkest secrets just floating around out there.
Right. And just like with medical information, there's a responsibility to keep that stuff confidential.
So test results shouldn't be shared without the person's permission.
Exactly. Unless there's like a really specific legal reason.
Okay, so we've talked about privacy and confidentiality. What else is there to watch out for?
Another big one is the potential for misinterpretation.
Okay, how so?
Well, we've talked about how some of these tests, especially the ones with the ink blots, can be pretty subjective.
Yeah, it's not like a clear-cut answer every time.
Exactly. It really depends on the person who's interpreting the results, like their training and experience.
Oh, I see. So one therapist might see one thing in an ink blot.
And another therapist might see something totally different.
Right, and those differences could actually have a big impact on someone's life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's kind of scary to think that someone could be diagnosed with something or denied an opportunity based on a test that's so open to interpretation.
That's why it's so important to remember that these tests should never be used alone.
Okay, what do you mean?
Like, they're just one piece of the puzzle. You have to consider all the other information too, like the person's background, their current situation, and what they're saying about themselves.
So it's about looking at the whole person.
That's exactly. Not just their test scores.
I think this deep dive has been so eye-opening. Like, I had no idea how complex this whole world of personality and neuropsychology testing really is.
Me neither. It's been a wild ride.
It's fascinating to see the science behind these tests and all the different ways they're used, from therapy to hiring to even matchmaking.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is just how important it is to use these tests responsibly and ethically.
Couldn't agree more. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
I hope so too. And, as we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
Okay, shoot.
If these tests can tell us so much about who we are, what about all the stuff they can't measure?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like, what about our unique experiences, the things we're good at, our dreams, all those things that make us who we are, but can't be captured in a test score?
I think that's such an important point to remember. Like, yeah, these tests can give us insights, but they don't define us.
We're so much more than that.
Exactly.
Beautifully said. Well, on that note, I think we'll bring our deep dive to a close for today.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.